welcome to Commerce City. I am Chuck Sonnier, currently the Interim Chief of Police of Commerce City. I want to thank everybody for attending today. Today's goal is to provide information on the recovery process that concluded last week. We will not be able to provide specific comments on the case as the investigation is ongoing. I want to point out this is the first recovery effort of this kind of the Commerce City Police Department. We relied on a number of outside experts and volunteers, which were key to this event. And I want to thank those that are with us today, and they are able to answer questions at the end of this, and I would ask that you hold all your questions till the end. And I also like to take a personal point here to thank the men and women of the Commerce City Police Department who spent more than 8,000 hours during this recovery. Back on March 29th, we responded to a report of a missing child. On March 30th, we arrested Sharika Page, who was subsequently charged. On March 30th, we began planning for the search at the Denver-Arapahoe disposal site based on the information we received. On April 9th, we began the search for the missing child. Our search was in hopes of finding closure for the family and finding the child. At this time, I'll introduce you to Sergeant Joe Doherty, who is the incident commander, and he'll talk about the recovery process.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. Thank you all for coming. Sergeant Joe Doherty, D-O-U-G-H-E-R-T-Y. I'm with Commerce City Incident Management Team. Back on March 29th, the Commerce City Incident Management Team was assigned a task for a landfill recovery at the Denver-Arapahoe landfill facility. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. We started the operation that day and quickly found out that what we're looking at is a 2.5 acre area in which we were to search. And the search depth on this was going to be anywhere from 8 feet to 20 feet deep. 2.5 acres, let's think about this. This is like the size of Dick's Sporting Goods Stadium. The depth, 2 stories, three of him stacked up, that's a lot of rubbish we was going to have to go through. We got the team together and we're like, okay, where do we go from here? This is the first type of incident that the Commerce City Police Department has handled of this nature. So we reached out to some of our colleagues, and Waste Management, I want to tell you, they were able to give us the logistical area in which we were supposed to search from. They gave us the information on a 2.5 acre area. The minute we found out we were going to have to conduct a search at their facility, they immediately stopped operations at where they were at, and they moved operations to a different location in the facility. They provided security for us in and out. They put up roadblocks, and then they kept meeting with us on a constant basis to make sure we're in the right coordinates to search this 2.5 acres, make sure we're going down to the right depth. We were working off an area that was about 20 stories, 200 feet tall. So they wanted to make sure we didn't go too far, but we went far enough for the search to be effective. Like I said, it's the first operation we did in the Commerce City Police Department. We started thinking, okay, where do we go? Where do we reach out from? Where do we reach out to? We contacted the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the FBI. We got a hold of their agents. Got a hold of Dan Lehman. He and his support group came out. They've done numerous searches. They had a vast amount of experience in landfill searches. And the 30th, when we started planning for this search, we're looking at where do we go with manpower? How do we staff this? What are we? Logistically, what are we going to need? We're going to need trailers. We're going to need equipment, heavy equipment, all this other stuff. They were able to bring all this together for us, and not only them, CBI was able to also, give their input in and give us information and provide manpower. Both FBI and CBI provided, 10 people per unit for manpower to help us out, just to get started for the first 25, 30 days of the operation. We really appreciate that. Logistically, we're going to have 30 people operating on the scene. What do we do for food? As you can see, some of the pictures we have hanging around here, and I'll get into them in just a second. The recovery operation, we brought in specialized people, starting with the FBI, CBI, the CERT teams, all the volunteers are specialized in search and rescue. But I don't think anybody that came in here had to deal with what we had to deal with on this search. We're looking for a 7-month-old baby that was up in the hill. I'll walk you through a typical day. All the workers get there 6 o'clock in the morning. We report, they dress up in their personal protective gear, and as you can see, we got the Tyvek suit. A little bit about the Tyvek suit. When it gets warm outside, it's about 15 degrees hotter inside that Tyvek suit than it is in the outside ambient air. We got the gloves, specialized gloves. We have specialized boots, and we had the N90 mask that everybody was required, and the glasses. Okay, the conditions that these people had to work in was horrific. I mean, you can just imagine. When they got out on the line, the winds never stopped. Jason with Waste Management says one thing you have to get used to is the winds. 20 to 30 mile an hour winds continuously. The smell was just unbelievable. And then what we were searching for through was terrible. So, but these guys, volunteers, kept coming out. We'd give our briefings. And I want to reiterate that these were volunteers. Even from different agencies, they wanted to be there. They wanted to help us out for the search for the 7-month-old child. My briefings in the morning consisted of the safety briefing. They got tired of our safety briefings, hearing the same old thing. The weather, make sure everybody was okay to work. But one thing I didn't have to do, I didn't have to tell them about the motivation, what we're out there for. It turned quickly at the first of this operation to the point where we weren't looking for evidence anymore. All those dedicated employees, all those dedicated people, all those dedicated citizens that was out here at the landfill helping us out was dedicated. They were basically working through hell so one small soul can go to heaven. And we didn't have to remind them of that. Motivation wasn't a part. Okay. Typical day, 6:30, they'll get their briefing, 7 o'clock, they're on the line. We'll kind of walk you through with some of these things, kind of basically real quick, how the operation went. We had the hill we were searching. The 13,000 tons of rubbish we were searching through, away from the area. We had an excavator up there would scoop the rubbish up into a dump truck. The dump truck would bring it. We had 4 sifting lines, as you can see on that last photo. The sifting lines are kind of up on the right-hand side. 4 sifting lines that they would dump the rubbish in through. And then each one of our workers, our line workers, would sift through each one of those lines. And then when it was done, we had a front-end loader take it and push it out, and it'd start the process over again. Now, this was a 7-day operation for 53 days. It was 12 hours a day. Some of the equipment we needed was naturally all the heavy equipment that we had. We had a rehab trailer there. We had a clean rehab trailer where we can bring the people in for their lunches and they can eat in a clean environment. And then we had the dirty trailer if they just wanted to get out of the elements. Because I tell you what, it got hot out there. It got windy out there. It got rainy out there. They were working in mud. They were working in you name it. I've been a police officer for 30 years, and this is probably the toughest environment I've ever had to work in my entire career. And this is something I want to kind of remind people that the people that was out there searching will never forget this. This is one operation that will continue. They'll remember helping out. on recovery of this 7-month-old baby. So logistically, that's what, if you see the next poster right next to it, that's kind of basically how the sifting lines were working and the personnel were working. They'd start from the edge and they'd work in, and they'd sift through every piece of rubbish there. If they saw an open trash bag, they would open it up. Anything they found, and they made sure that line was completely cleared before they continued through the next line. So, I mean, it was quite the process. And as you can, just a little image of the next picture over of how tall. Now, that's only about the 10-foot area, 8 to 10-foot area. Imagine 20 feet up, how much worse I got. And this is basically what it looked like after about, we're about 52 days into the operation, and that's how far we got. Finally, I want to thank, the 26 agencies that helped out with this operation. I want to thank everybody that stepped forward and helped us out getting this started. And we're out there searching, and it's amazing how a community, a state, a nation, we reached out across to other people for information, how they can come together and help out for such a good cause, and something we wanted to do. I can't stop talking until I point out one of our CERT volunteers from RTD. She was out there over 40 days helping us out. She's a volunteer. She didn't need to be there, okay? She wanted to. Her name is Vicki Smiley. She wouldn't, we couldn't get her to take a day off. She wanted to be there. She wanted to help out. And boy, she did help out. And, although she's about my age, we call her our little line mom. It's amazing how citizens work.
Okay, now I'd like to introduce Agent Kirby Lewis from the Colorado Bureau of Investigations.
Thank you, Chief. My title is Agent in Charge with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation on our Major Crimes Unit. The spelling of my name is Kirbylewis. On behalf of the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, we'd like to commend the Commerce City Police Department on their diligence, on their commitment, and on their perseverance on behalf of the 7-month-old child and his loved ones. Commerce City Police Department's logistical support, their safety precautions, and their hospitality, as you can see, in very inhospitable conditions, made the search much more comfortable. CBI has been involved in a handful of landfill searches over the years. I've personally been involved in 2 of them, this being my second, and Commerce City's preparation and execution was outstanding. With 26 agencies involved in the search, the effort was an excellent example of the regional partnerships that are developed to support a difficult mission and complex investigation. CBI is honored to have been a part of this search team, as well as being part of teams throughout the state to support in complex crime investigation, either through the forensic services or through investigative or intelligence analytical work. I want to thank everybody that was involved in the search, both within CBI and from all the different agencies involved. I spent 3 days searching on the site and can tell you how physically and otherwise demanding that search was. Despite all the physical challenges, everyone who participated in the search remained focused on why we were there, and the only time I heard any complaints from anybody was on a particularly windy day on a Sunday where it was difficult to even stand up and continue with the search. Specifically, I'd like to thank the agents from the CBI that participated in the search. We had agents responding from Grand Junction, Greeley, and our Pueblo office, as well as out of Denver, to assist in the search. I'd also like to thank CBI management. our Denver Laboratory Director, Katie Featherston, who's here today, Assistant Director Steve Johnson, as well as Jan Gerton and Ron Sloan, the Director of CBI, who provided the manpower and the resources so that we could participate in this search. It was a worthy effort for everybody involved, and we thank their support for allowing us to become a part of that. And finally, what I'd like to, while we celebrate the success of the search, that's certainly tempered with the need for the search to begin with, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the family and loved ones who miss and care for the missing child. Thank you.
And next, I would like to introduce Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Mike Rankin from the FBI.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. I'm Mike Rankin. I'm an Assistant Special Agent in Charge with the FBI here in Denver. And I would also like to begin by commending the Commerce City Police Department, the City of Commerce City, and all the agencies who participated in this search for their tenacity and commitment to make sure that this tragic situation was brought to a successful resolution. In terms of our assistance, there's no one agency who can go at an operation like this alone. We must pool our areas of expertise and our resources, and we do this day in and day out in Colorado to solve and to further the investigation of a whole host of different types of cases. Fortunately and unfortunately, the FBI does have some experience with these types of operations. We have 2 ongoing right now in other parts of the country. So we were able to bring that experience at the onset of this search and help the Commerce City Police Department and Waste Management with laying out a methodology that would, at the time, we hoped would end in a successful search and then another successful step in this investigation. So again, I just want to thank all the agencies and all of our partners here for the tremendous commitment in this endeavor, and we certainly hope that we don't have to conduct another search like this, but I think we all are committed to work side by side if and when that event arises again. Thank you.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank everyone that's in attendance, and I'm going to name some people that are here. First of all, I want to thank AMR, the City of Aurora, of course the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, Colorado Division of Energy and Management, the Community College of Aurora, the Kenyon Fire Protection District, the Douglas County Office of Emergency Management, the Federal Bureau of Investigations, G4S Secure Solutions USA, Metropolitan State University, and Ram Park Search and Rescue. Also, the Regional Transportation District and Waste Management. And before I open up to questions, I do want to say this was a large event, and it would not have come to a successful resolution without the help of our partners across the United States. We reached out to everybody, to our own officers involved, to our volunteers involved. I want to say thank you. I'm going to open the floor to questions, and I will repeat your question when you ask it, and then I will turn it over to the appropriate person to ask. Yes, sir, go ahead.
A quick question about just the feeling that other instances at Grand Junction. Small.
So the question is the feeling of everybody after the finding of the baby, when we've had other incidents across the nation that we haven't resulted in fines. I can speak for myself personally that it was emotional. You're very joyful that we've recovered, but also still saddened. It has an emotional effect, a lifetime effect, I'm sure, on everybody in this room. The funding, yes, the funding is provided by the City of Commerce City.
If you can answer. Search.
Well, with first question is what led us to finding the baby. That's still part of the investigative process, and we're not going to discuss that. The second thing is how long we were going to take on the search. We were committed to taking the search to the end. Yes, sir.
Chief, I know it's hard to talk about not needing motivation. Such an enormous task, especially day one, day two, when you were just, how did you keep, I know you said you didn't need to do it, but that's a lot of material to go through.
Yeah, and your question is how do we keep the motivation? I got to tell you, it's the dedicated men and women of the Commerce City Police Department, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, the volunteers. They brought that to the table. We didn't have to bring that. I mean, you can see them out there. The motivation was there. Yes, sir.
How far along were you?
The question is how far along we were. I'm going to turn that over to Sergeant Doherty about how far we were into the search.
Yes, sir. We were probably around 9,200 tons through the search of about 13,000 tons, which equates out to about 70% through the search when we found it.
Yes, sir.
Quick question. When you found it, I don't know if you were there.
Well, what it was like when the baby was found, I will admit that I was there, but I'm going to turn that over to Sergeant Doherty because he was the incident commander and on site. Just the emotions involved.
Okay. Yes, I'm probably one of the hardened officers of 30 years here, and as everybody can probably contest to. But when the 7-month-old baby was located, we didn't know what it was going to be like when we found it. And I know we had a mission to do, and that mission was to find the child. We had things in place. We had the Colorado National Guard chaplains, which met with us regularly every day to say a few spiritual words in the morning and right before our break for lunch. And we planned on having them down there, in which they came down. But once the baby was located and we put our investigative process in place, there wasn't really much being said. I mean, naturally, we were happy that the mission was completed, but yet there still was a sadness that this reality set in. That we all knew what we were looking for, and we found the child, but still, you can't anticipate what your emotions are going to be like, and so.
Yeah, the question was who found it, and once again, that's part of the investigative process and won't be discussed. Okay. Yes, sir. I'll come back to you. Yes.
Your evidence looks pretty strong.
Once again, the information about how we ended up at the Arapahoe landfill is part of the investigation and cannot be discussed. I'm sorry.
Can you talk about landfill operations are, down there obviously it's huge. Acreage that you were searching, how you ended up, not part of the investigation, but just
Well, and the question is how do we pick that area of the landfill? And I will tell you that's part of waste management. They're very detailed about where everything goes. They know during the day what trucks go where, or what debris goes what area. So they were able to pinpoint that for us within a certain area. And you question?
without the help of all your volunteers, never happened with this. Had so many people help.
Yeah, without the help of the volunteers and our partners from across the United States and CBI and FBI, this would have taken a long time. I can't imagine a long time. And if we would have even been able to handle that project by ourselves. Yes, sir.
Your industry, your business.
You know, I'm going to refer that to the FBI because they handle this more than I do, okay?
Well, just briefly, I think it's safe to assume that the Commerce City Police Department will now be called upon as somewhat of an expert in these types of operations. It's such a massive undertaking that I think every time that you go through one of these searches, you learn a tremendous amount about how to set the search up, how to deal with the conditions during the search, that you immediately become an expert in these types of searches. And I'm confident that the Commerce City Police Department and also Waste Management will be called upon in the future from across the country to serve as advisors and experts in these types of operations.
Are there any volunteers here to speak about?
Yes, there are, and we are going to open that up at the end to, if you'd like to do individual reviews. Yes, sir.
In general, is there a point where it just gets asked or?
And if I understand your question in general, does it become a point where the task becomes where it's just too big to handle or too big to do? And the answer would be yes, in any task that we undertake. And, you know, using our partners at the FBI and through the different colleges and probability factors, is it a possibility? And we had to look at all that.
Was it important in this one that?
Well, of course, the longer you go in any process like this, the longer the search is going to go. It's easier to narrow it down the quicker you have the information. Any more questions I can take? Yes, sir. No, you're fine.
Is there anything that you guys?
You know, I will tell you that, is there anything we've learned? From the day of that call, we have learned a lot of information. You know, from our IMT team, obviously these type of events is something that doesn't happen every day. You know, the partnerships and the things we've learned are amazing. So from day one, it has been a learning experience and still a learning experience. You know, I can't answer that question as far as would we do anything differently. You know, it was you know, resulted in what we wanted when we had located the baby, and that was really truly to bring some closure. And, you know, I can't say we would really do anything differently. Well, I mean, once again, I'll have to refer that to Sergeant Doherty. And the question was, you know, how did you sleep at night after dealing with this all day long?
Well, I can tell you personally, you know, it's an emotional, as long as, you know, a moral search. I can only talk about myself, but I would imagine the people out doing through the sifting lines were tired, sore. I mean, if you can just imagine going out to your front yard and raking through leaves, heavy leaves, maybe rocks, all day long for, you know, 10 to 12 hours. When you get done with the day, you know, and then you go home, you're going to be sore, you're going to be tired. I would hope that the people were sleeping well out there. Myself, I never sleep good anyway, so, but I would hope they did. But they do this day in and day out. Every day they knew that they had to, they didn't have to, they wanted to come down to the landfill and help out on the search. So to answer that question, I would say, I would hope they slept well, but it was never brought to my attention any other different.
How confident were you that you were going to find it?
The question was how confident we're going to be able to find what we're looking for. We had a pretty high confidence level. That's where we continue with where we're going. I want to thank everybody for attending. I'll conclude this form of the conference, and we will be available afterwards if you'd like to speak to us individually. Once again, thank you for everybody attending, and once again, thank you to all our partners and volunteers and to the dedicated men and women of the Commerce City Police Department. Thank you.